That's Salsa. Classic salsa from Puerto Rico from 1968. That's Andy Montañez and El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico, an orchestra that became big in the 1960s with Un Verano en Nueva York, which means a summer in New York. Yes, I know what you're thinking. That's from a Bad Bunny song. The truth is, that Bad Bunny song took a sample from El Gran Combo, and on February 1st, 2026, that exact sample from 1968, wrapped in trap beats, delivered by a Puerto Rican artist who never sang a word in English, won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year. The first Spanish language album to ever win that award. Ever. In the entire history of the Grammys. But there's a lot to uncover here. Bad Bunny's NUEVAYoL is about connection between Puerto Rico and New York, a platform for New Yorkers, between past and present, between traditional and modern, between cultures. And those hi-hats, those 808s, that aggressive, dark, cinematic sound underneath Bad Bunny's voice, that's not from Puerto Rico. That's from Atlanta.
Hey man, I still got my thing. Hey, this some trap. Come on, this ain't no L, this ain't no game, this some trap.
And I have a theory. Unproven, maybe controversial, definitely fascinating theory though. Without a rapper named T.I., who named the genre in Atlanta in the 90s and 2000s, we probably wouldn't have Bad Bunny. I know, that sounds a little stretch, but how could the biggest artist in the world right now, a Puerto Rican reggaeton superstar who sings entirely in Spanish about colonialism, gentrification, and Caribbean culture, how could he owe his existence to Southern trap music?
¿Será que mi letra es mía y a nadie le pago regalía? ¿Será que mi flow es propio, original y de nadie me copio?
Sigue tu camino que sin ti me va mejor. Ahora tengo ahora.
Puerto Rico.
Como Bad Bunny va a ser rey del pop, ey, con reggaeton y dembow, ey, con reggaeton.
But follow the chain with me. Atlanta invents a sound in the trap houses of the 1990s. T.I. names it, packages it, and sells it to the world in 2003. Puerto Rican artists hear it, adapt it, fuse it with reggaeton, and create Latin trap around 2007. And then, in 2016, a kid from Vega Baja posts songs on SoundCloud using that exact fusion and becomes the biggest musician on the planet. It's just beautiful.
Ey, un shot de cañita en casa de Toñita, ey, PR se siente cerquita, sí, sí, sí.
This is a story about sampling, but it's also about cultural preservation, about how music travels across borders and languages and becomes something entirely new while honoring what came before. This is not a story about politics, social unrest, or Super Bowl halftime shows. This is a story about how Black American music gave Puerto Rican artists the tools to fight back against cultural erasure. This is a story about connection. Welcome to Uncovering the Cover. I'm Diego Pinzon, and today we're looking at how an album became the first Spanish language album of the year, inspired by a 1968 salsa sample honoring the capital of the world, thanks in part to trap music from the American South. And the story of how Bad Bunny uses his music to represent both a culmination of Latin trap's evolution and a deliberate act of cultural preservation. On January 5th, 2025, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, or as we know him, Bad Bunny, released his sixth solo studio album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos. The title translates to I should have taken more photos. And if that title sounds nostalgic, even melancholic, that's the point. This album is about memory, about what we lose when we don't pay attention, about a Puerto Rico that's disappearing, being bought up, gentrified, colonized, again by American money, about a culture that needs to be preserved, remembered, that needs to be photographed. Hence the album cover, which shows two plastic chairs in the backyard of a house, reminiscing of the times we sat down with grandma when things were simpler. The album opens with NUEVAYoL.
NUEVAYoL.
That pronunciation, NUEVAYoL, it's how Puerto Ricans say New York. It's the merger of two homes, the island and the city. Because for generations, Puerto Ricans have lived in both places. They have become both places. The diaspora is as much as part of Puerto Rican identity as the island itself. And Bad Bunny knows this. The song samples Un Verano en Nueva York, a classic salsa track about Puerto Ricans in New York. But here's what's brilliant about it. The song doesn't stay in salsa mode. After that opening sample, it transitions into reggaeton and dembow. Modern, aggressive. The sound of 2025. The sound of Bad Bunny. It name drops the Bronx, which isn't just the birthplace of hip-hop. It's also a Puerto Rican cultural capital. It references Toñitas, a Caribbean social club that's been a gathering place for stateside Puerto Ricans for decades.
Ey, un shot de cañita en casa de Toñita, ey, PR se siente cerquita, sí, sí, sí.
The song is the perfect encapsulation of the entire album's thesis. Here's where we come from. Here's what we are. Don't forget that connection. The whole album works this way, track after track. Bad Bunny samples and references Puerto Rican musical history. Baile Inolvidable is a 6-minute salsa masterpiece that channels Willie Colon and Héctor Lavoe, salsa legends who made their careers in New York and were part of La Fania, one of the most iconic salsa orchestras ever. In Baile Inolvidable, Bad Bunny recites a love letter to an unforgettable love from his recent past. The song kicks off into a salsa mode right after a quote from Puerto Rican poet Jacobo Morales, which says, "As long as one is alive, one must love as much as possible."
Mientras uno está vivo, uno debe amar lo más que pueda.
El Club fuses house music with plena, Afro-Puerto Rican folk music.
¿Qué diablo estará haciendo? Estará jangueando, estará durmiendo, estará fumando, estará bebiendo, seguirá sola o está
The track EO samples the 2002 song Tra Tra, a classic from Héctor y Tito, two pioneers of reggaeton music from Puerto Rico, and also references Bad Bunny's own song, Solo de Mí, from his debut album.
Ella viene por ahí y nunca llega sola. Ella nunca llega sola. Todos los bandidos sueltan la pistola. Esta noche lo que hay.
He's creating a musical timeline. Past, present, future. All connected. All Puerto Rican. And it worked. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, his 4th number 1 album. And here's the kicker. At the 68th Grammy Awards on February 1st, 2026, Debí Tirar Más Fotos became the first Spanish language album to win Album of the Year.
And the Grammy goes to Bad Bunny, Debí Tirar Más Fotos.
I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dream. Muchas gracias.
First Spanish language album ever. Only the second Hispanic artist to win Album of the Year after Santana's 1999 Supernatural, which had about 70% of its songs in English. That's not just a Bad Bunny achievement. This is a Latin music achievement. That's a "this is how the world has changed" moment. But to understand how we got here, how a Puerto Rican reggaeton artist became the biggest musician in the world and won the most prestigious award in American music while singing entirely in Spanish, we need to talk about sampling. And we need to talk about trap music. Let's start with the obvious question. What is sampling in Latin trap and why does it matter? In hip-hop, sampling has always been about more than just borrowing a beat. It's about connection. It's about saying, I hear what came before me, I respect it, and I'm going to build something new on that foundation. Early hip-hop sampled funk and soul. Golden era hip-hop sampled jazz and obscure records. Southern hip-hop sampled blues and gospel. In Latin trap samples everything. From rock to hip-hop to salsa to plena, bomba, old-school reggaeton, American rhythm and blues, Brazilian bossa nova, Dominican dembow. It's a genre built on fusion, and Bad Bunny might be its greatest architect. Just listen to his sampling history.
Hoy se bebe, hoy se gasta, hoy se fuma como un rata, si Dios lo permite.
In Zafaera from 2020, he samples Missy Elliott's Get Your Freak On, and also Puerto Rican reggaeton duo Alexis y Fido's El Tiburón.
Mami, ¿qué tú quieres? Aquí llegó tu tiburón. Yo quiero pelearte y fumarme un...
Solo de Mí from his debut album sampled Leonardo Paniagua's bachata classic Fue de los Dos. Several times he's also sampled Tego Calderón, a reggaeton pioneer and Afro-Puerto Rican activist. He's sampled also The Girl from Ipanema, bringing Brazilian bossa nova into Latin trap. He's even sampled Madonna, wrestler Ric Flair, and Latin American rock bands in many of his songs. Every sample is a choice. Every sample is a statement. In NUEVAYoL, Bad Bunny also samples Andrés Jiménez's voice. In fact, when the song begins, this is the voice of Jiménez, a Puerto Rican composer known as El Jíbaro. And the spoken part towards the middle of the song, that's also a sample from Puerto Rican boxer Felix Tito Trinidad in his post-fight interview when he defeated Oscar de la Hoya in 1999.
The best in the world. Number one, the best in the world, okay? Puerto Rico.
Yes. Number one.
All right, will you give Oscar de la Hoya a rematch?
When Bad Bunny samples Un Verano en Nueva York from El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico in NUEVAYoL, the salsa song, he's not just using a catchy melody. He's saying, this is our music. This is our history. And I'm going to make sure the kids who listen to trap and reggaeton know where this came from. That's different from how a lot of trap music works. American trap, for instance, the kind that came out of Atlanta in the 2000s, is built more on synthesized sounds, 808 drum machines, digital production. It's forward-looking. It's about creating new sounds that feel futuristic and aggressive. Latin trap does that too, but it also looks backward. It samples. It remembers. And I think that's because Latin trap artists, especially from Puerto Rico, are hyper-aware of cultural erasure. They have lived through it. Puerto Rico is a colony. Puerto Rican music has been commercialized, whitewashed, stolen. For them, Puerto Rican culture is constantly under threat from American influence, from gentrification, from hurricane disasters that force mass migration. In a way, it's similar to what's happened with black music and culture, from where trap music originated. So when Bad Bunny samples salsa, hip-hop, rock, plena, and jíbaro music, he's not just being clever, he's preserving. He's saying this will not be lost. And here's the thing, It's working. Young people all over the world are now listening to reggaeton and Latin trap. And embedded in those beats, in those samples, is Puerto Rican history. That's the power of sampling. That's why it matters. A lot of the artists that originally composed those songs are also credited as songwriters, so every time a Bad Bunny song plays or gets streamed, those artists who might have been lost otherwise are now getting compensated. And here's the question I want to explore now. The question that might sound crazy, but that I genuinely think it's worth considering. Could Bad Bunny exist without T.I.? Could the biggest artist in the world exist without a rapper from Atlanta who named a genre in 2003? Let's talk about trap music. Okay, full disclosure. The theory I'm about to present is unproven. It's speculative. It's the kind of thing music historians might debate forever or dismiss completely. I came up with this theory because at the time of this recording, I've been living in Atlanta for more than 4 years and I have come to appreciate the culture of the city deeply. But as I stated in the intro of the episode, my theory is this. Without T.I., we wouldn't have Bad Bunny. Now, before you skip ahead, let me explain. First, we need to get the story right, or the history right, because T.I. himself has said he invented trap music, and he's kind of right, but also kind of wrong.
As history has provided us with facts, the word trap and music had never been combined to describe a sound before my second album in 2003. August 19th, I think.
Right.
Prior to that, there were definitely people who were, that were talking about a lifestyle as a drug dealer. They definitely paved the way for people like us. However, if you asking about trap music,
that's you.
I don't say it's just me individually, but it didn't exist before
that second album.
The second album.
So let's unpack that. First, that was T.I. on the Underground Lounge, a YouTube channel where they have conversations about hip-hop and comedy, sports and culture. The term trap, meaning a place where drugs are sold, started appearing in Southern rap in the early 1990s. UGK's Pocket Full of Stones in 1992, Masterpiece Mr. Ice Cream Man in 1996. Rappers were talking about the trap before T.I. was famous. And the sound of trap, well, that was developed by a producer named Shawty Red in the late 1990s. He was working with a rapper named Drama on an album called Cousin Drama that came out in 2000. Shawty Red added what he called booty shake hi-hats. Fast, complex, layered over 808 bass. That became the trap sound. So by the time T.I. released his first album, I'm Serious, in 2001, trap as a sound and as a lyrical concept already existed in Atlanta's underground. But this is what T.I. did do. In 2003, he released trap music.
Hey man, I still got the thing. Hey, this some trap. Come on, this ain't no am, this ain't no game. This some trap. Trap music. This ain't no am, this ain't no game. This some trap. Trap music. This ain't no am, this ain't no game.
And he named the genre. He said, "This is trap music. This is what we call it." The album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, sold over 100,000 copies in the first week. It was a hit, and suddenly, trap music was a thing. It had a name. It had commercial viability. It had mainstream legitimacy. Gucci Mane, Young Jeezy, T.I., this became the holy trinity of trap. Producers like Lex Luger, Zaytoven, Drama Boy started making beats specifically in the trap style. The sound dominated Atlanta, then the South, then the country, then the world. T.I. might not have invented the sound, but he gave it an identity. He made it a genre. And here's why this matters for our story. If trap had stayed underground, if it never got a name, never got commercial success, never a recognizable genre, what would have been of the music of Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Travis Scott, 21 Savage, Migos? Trap music has had such an impact that its influence can be seen in artists like Ariana Grande, Beyonce, Miley Cyrus, Rihanna, The Weeknd, Post Malone, Sabrina Carpenter, Justin Bieber, basically anyone who has been top of the charts in the last 30 years. K-pop and reggaeton, of course, might have never happened the way we know them today. Now, let me tell you about De La Ghetto. De La Ghetto is a Puerto Rican artist who's often credited as one of the pioneers, if not the inventor of Latin trap. He lived in Memphis, Tennessee for a while, and he heard the Southern trap. He heard what was coming out of Atlanta and Memphis in the mid-2000s, and he thought, what if we did this, but in Spanish? What if we took these beats, this energy, this street aesthetic, and merged it with reggaeton?
La brisa acaricia tu pelo, la gana besarte casi pierde el control. Una onza de creepy, pa' los nervios, enrólate firme, ponte cinturón.
He started experimenting in 2005 and 2006. People thought he was crazy. Reggaeton was already huge. Why mess with it? And he wasn't actually bringing in trap as they knew it. Why bring in this aggressive American sound then? Well, in 2007, El Pistolón came out, which translates to the big pistol or the big gun. Yaga y Maki with Arcángel, De La Ghetto, and Jowell y Randy. It's often cited as their first real Latin trap song.
La maravilla lo hace de nuevo, matando la liga de nuevo. Cuando me ves te paran los pelos, dime por qué me tiene tanto celo. Será por mi flow experto, será porque le meto violento. Más mujeres que mi jefe yo me llevo, será por mi tres conciertos. Será que mi letra es mía y a nadie le pago regalía. Será que mi flow es propio.
Listen to that. That is not reggaeton. That is not salsa. That's trap with Spanish lyrics, with Latin rhythms, but fundamentally, trap. The timeline matters here. 2003, T.I. releases trap music, popularized the genre. 2005 and 6, De La Ghetto, exposed to Southern trap, starts experimenting. In 2007, El Pistolón and Latin trap is born. 2016, 11 years later, Bad Bunny emerges on SoundCloud. The line is direct. Atlanta creates trap. T.I. names it and makes it mainstream. Latin artists hear it, adapt it, merge it with their own traditions. Bad Bunny perfects the fusion. Now, you might say, okay, but music evolves naturally. Someone would have done this eventually. Maybe. But consider this. What T.I. did was give trap music legitimacy. He showed that you could rap about street life, about drugs, about violence, and be commercially successful. He showed that this sound, these 808s, these rapid hi-hats, these dark synthesizers could sell. Without that proof of concept, why would Latin artists take the risk? Reggaeton was already successful. It had its own sound, its own market. Why bring in American trap? Because T.I. showed it could work. Because trap had become a genre. It had cultural cachet. It had a playbook for success. Reggaeton artists wanted to look more street. De La Ghetto, Anuel, Ozuna, Bad Bunny, they didn't just borrow trap sounds. They borrowed trap's success model. And here's the kicker. Bad Bunny's music is fundamentally trap. Yes, it's reggaeton. Yes, it's dembow. Yes, it's Latin music. But the foundation, the production, the 808s, the beat structures, the aggressive energy, that's trap. Listen to Soy Peor, which translates to I'm Worse, his breakout hit from 2016.
Sigue
sigue tu camino, que sin ti me va mejor. Ahora tengo a otras que me lo hacen mejor. Si antes yo era un hijo.
That's a trap beat. That's pure Atlanta DNA, filtered through Puerto Rico. And what about Bad Bunny's 2017 hit Chambea? Not only is this also pure Atlanta trap, but the music video was recorded in the capital city of Georgia. Without trap being defined, successful, mainstream, would Bad Bunny sound the way he sounds? And if Bad Bunny doesn't sound the way he sounds, does he become the biggest artist in the world? Now, to be clear, this does not diminish Bad Bunny's genius. Not at all. He took influences and made something entirely his own. He fused genres in ways no one had ever done before. He centered Puerto Rican culture and made the whole world pay attention. But the tools he used, the sonic foundation, that came from Atlanta. That came from trap. That came from T.I. naming it, popularizing it, making it a genre that could be adapted. So here's my unproven theory stated plainly. T.I., by naming and popularizing trap in 2003, created these conditions that allow Latin trap to emerge. Latin trap, by successfully merging trap with Latin music, gave Bad Bunny his sonic palette. Bad Bunny, using that palette, became the biggest Latin artist in history. It's a chain, and I think T.I. is the first link. Now, could you argue against this? Absolutely. You could say music evolution is inevitable, that someone else would have popularized trap, that Latin artists would have found American Southern hip-hop anyway, that Bad Bunny's talent transcends any particular genre influence. All valid points, but I keep coming back to this. De La Ghetto heard Southern trap and thought, I can adapt this. He didn't have to invent it. He didn't have to prove it could work. Trap had already done that. Trap had already been named, packaged, sold. That's what T.I. gave the world. Not just a sound, but a template. And Bad Bunny used that template to build something revolutionary. So let's bring it full circle, back to NUEVAYoL. But why does this song matter so much? Why does it open the album? Because it's doing exactly what we've been talking about. It's sampling the past. It's using modern production. It's creating something new that honors what came before. El Gran Combo's Un Verano en Nueva York, it's from a different era. It's salsa. It's the music of the Puerto Rican diaspora in the 1970s and 80s. It's the sound of the Bronx, of Caribbean social clubs, of a community maintaining its identity in a new city. Bad Bunny takes that sample, he wraps it in a trap-influenced reggaeton, he raps over about gentrification, colonialism, about Puerto Ricans in New York and Puerto Rico both facing displacement. And then the whole world listens, including people who have never heard the original, including people who have no idea what or who El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico is, including people who don't speak Spanish, but they hear it now. The sample is in there. The history behind this cover is in there. I'm sure you saw plenty of videos on TikTok from Hispanic Gen Zers playing Bad Bunny's song to their grandparents, who immediately started dancing to El Gran Combo's horns. And despite their confusion when the beat dropped and Bad Bunny started rapping, the 2 or even 3 generations of family members were connected through music, through the same song. That's the power of a cover. That's the power of what Bad Bunny does. It's not just good music. It's music that means something. It's music that preserves something. It's music that fights back against cultural erasure. And that's why the album won Album of the Year at the Grammys.
Un ratito nada más. Ey, ey, ey. 4 de julio, verde July. Ando con mi prima borracha July. Lo mío en el Bronx.
And here's the beautiful irony. He's using tools from American trap. He used American street culture and Puerto Rican folklore for liberation. Music is never just music. It's always a conversation. It's always a negotiation between past and present, between cultures, between power structures. It's about music that becomes mainstream and later other artists adapt it. Bad Bunny perfected multiple genres and created his own. And now, a Spanish language album has won the Grammy for Album of the Year. The circle is complete.
Cerveza nuevo, number one de veces nuevo, ¿ok? Puerto Rico.
Como Bad Bunny va a ser rey del pop, ey, con reggaetón y dembow, ey, con reggaetón y dembow, sí.
Debí tirar más fotos. I should have taken more photos. Bad Bunny's album is about regret, about not capturing moments before they're gone, about Puerto Rico disappearing, about culture being erased. But at the same time, it's a celebration of doing things that are worth pursuing.
Cosas que valgan la pena. Ey, pa'l perreo, la salsa, la bomba y la plena. Chequéate la mía, cómo es que suena. Debí tirar más fotos de cuando te tuve. Debí darte más besos y abrazos las veces que pude. Ojalá que la mía nunca se mude.
But here's the thing about photos. They only work if you share them, if you show them to people, if you make sure the next generation sees them too. That's what sampling does. That's what covers do. That's what this album does. That's what NUEVAYoL does. It takes the photo and it shares it with the world. And maybe, just maybe, it preserves something that otherwise would be lost.
Otros once bonitas que veo en San Juan, disfrutando de todas esas cosas que extrañan los que se van, disfrutando de noches de esas que ya no se dan, que ya no se dan.
This is Uncovering the Cover, the podcast that explores the hidden stories behind music's greatest transformations. This podcast is produced and edited by me, Diego Pinzon. Subscribe wherever you're listening from and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And remember, every cover is a conversation. Every cover tells a story of transformation, of perspective, of how the same song can mean completely different things, depending on who's listening, singing, and when. Next time on Uncovering the Cover, you decide which song gets uncovered. So if you're on Spotify, go to the show notes, take the poll, and vote for which song we'll uncover next. I'm Diego Pinzon. Thank you for listening.